Hi, I'm Rigger. This is You Are Right, and we're here to discuss episode 3 of RWBY Beyond. This episode is entitled The Adventures of Somewhat, and was a double release with the Boba episode with Yang and Ruby. I will talk about that episode, but it'll probably be tomorrow or the day after it'll come out. So I'm not discussing it today, but obviously I've seen it. For now though, if you are watching, give us a subscribe and a like and all of that stuff. But let's get into the episode. So, interestingly, this focuses on Somewhat after everyone has left, Somewhat doing their job in the Ever After. And I was really fascinated, I didn't know what the episode was going to be, obviously, and then I saw the thumbnail, and then I saw the title, and this one surprises me the most of any of them. We learn the most about things in the next one, obviously, but this one really stood out because originally when Beyond was pitched or talked about, it was what happened on Remnant while people were away. And then when we watched the episodes, we saw that wasn't necessarily the case because we had the journal episode, and obviously it's not exactly a complete description of what's actually happening. We're getting things after returning and things like that. But the one thing I wasn't expecting was to go back to the Ever After. And the Ever After obviously is very important, it means a lot, and it was obviously treated by a lot of fans also as almost an isekai, out of time. It didn't really matter, and it won't matter again. And I thought it was very interesting to return and see Somewhat, because, the story we get is just nice, they fulfill their purpose and are finding a purpose, but the ending is very, very interesting and very, very strange. So let's just do the whole thing. Let's go over it. To start with, they were following their purpose, right? Do what feels right, find what feels wrong, which is a bit nebulous, but let's do that. And the first thing they did was visit the genial gems. And interestingly, the genial gems had an interesting lesson for Somewhat, an interesting lesson in general compared to when they were the paper pleasers and were under Jean, which is the more we help ourselves, the more we can help others in the future. We don't need your help right now. We need to help ourselves. We need to establish ourselves, to do something. And that is quite a mature thing. We have to take responsibility for ourselves. We have to put in our own infrastructure. We have to build ourselves up. And then we can help others, which is something we want to do. But in this, obviously, Somewhat didn't find much of a purpose because they weren't needed. And I think that's really interesting that you went from a group that was so reliant on Jean, but their growth was built around when we're reborn, we need to learn to help ourselves first. And there's also a lesson in that. It's a bit of a charitable lesson that is sometimes hard to grasp. A lot of people want to help with charity. You see an ad on TV, or you see someone who needs help, and you want to help them because you have empathy, you're a human being, or whatever. And, there are animals that adopt and things like that, but you also can't help others effectively until you help yourself first. It's almost as if the evolution they needed to be the paper pleasers was, we need to evolve beyond just thinking of others because we therefore cannot look after ourselves. It's an important lesson to first learn to look after oneself, because once you are able to look after yourself, you can then focus on others without being a detriment to yourself. So I thought that was really cool, a nice little touch, a very mature little message for something that was just sort of a joke with the paper pleasers thing. It is actually something that has quite a real grounding in real life, where you might want to help with charity, but if you're not financially stable, if you don't have a solid job or way to look after yourself, you might want to do charity, but in doing so, you're only going to probably hurt yourself and those around you because you're going to give away money that you don't have, you're going to give away time that you can't spare, and in helping others, you're going to hurt yourself, and that's not sustainable because you can't keep helping them because you won't be able to sustain yourself. So I thought that was really cool. I thought that was a really interesting note to touch on for an episode that almost didn't feel like we needed it. I thought that was really cool. That sustaining message. The more we help ourselves now, the more we can help others in the future. That's really interesting. But Somewhat didn't find anything to do here, so had to move on. So went to the market. But when they went to the market, they found that they'd all come together. We've all come together, and we're stronger. So here at the market, somewhat didn't find anything to do either. The market didn't need their help. They were recuperating. And once again, it's a mature lesson. It's that we don't need to change ourselves. We don't need charity. We've all come together. We're helping each other. We're picking ourselves up. We're restoring what we had through the effort of community. And we've come together to do that. And it's another, like, mature lesson that has been left to the afterends, you know. These beings that all lived for a purpose, now finding a need and something to do. And the market is no different. The market has decided, oh, we can repair ourselves, we can recover, not via rebirth, but by simply coming together to assist each other and rebuild what we had. And it's like a reflection of that charity thing, of those morals. And again, this is where I was really interested in the journey of Somewhat in this episode, because they were set out with a purpose, and the first two places that Somewhat went, their purpose wasn't needed. The people had learned to look after themselves in a way that was necessary. Not in a way where they were struggling, but in a way where they learned and grew without the tree. So that's just such an interesting concept for a reality that was set up with these such strong rules when we first went there. It's as though the journey of Team RWBY there and the effects of removing the cat and things like that has left the Earthrons in a better place where they can learn and grow and develop without necessarily needing the tree. But that doesn't mean everyone did, because Somewhat had someone else to visit, and that person was the Red Prince. So, Somewhat went to the Crimson Keep, and they went there after asking the herbalist, and the herbalist said, do what feels right. And Somewhat said they no longer needed to return to the tree. They weren't ready for that. But someone might be, that an Afterin needed their help. So they went to the Red Prince and asked, where is everyone? And the Red Prince said, I sent them away. Again, a total change of character. That the Red Prince, rather than being controlling, sent everyone away because they were no longer needed, and instead sits alone in the keep. And yet again, we have such this interesting idea of self-reflection in the prince. How could they be ruled by someone like me? A question that is countered with, who is someone like you? And the Red Prince says, you seem familiar. And says, I have a job. And Somewhat replies, as do I. And the Red Prince says it is their job to sit and play this game. And it is their job to win this game. That is their purpose. And Somewhat says, that's not fair. What if it was my purpose to win this game, to beat you? What if it doesn't have to be your purpose to play this game? In fact, maybe you could teach others to win. And that is such a different perspective than anything we've heard in the Ever After. And what I think is even more interesting is the herbalist gave Somewhat the herbs wrapped in paper, a letter to give. But when Somewhat leaves, the prince says, thank you for playing with me, little one, which also, that's cute, little one, even though it's Somewhat because they were little. That felt right. And they actually drop the note by their feet. And the narration says there was one less thing wrong in the Ever After. As if Somewhat going there and playing with the Red Prince has changed who they are. And by the end of them leaving, they drop the letter. They don't need the herbs. They don't need to go to the tree. It's though their purpose can be changed without even needing the rebirth. As if the whole cycle of life here has changed. Because the genial gems didn't need Somewhat's help. The market didn't need Somewhat's help. And then Somewhat going to the Red Prince seemed to have helped without them going to the tree. And changed their perspective without needing to be remade. It was incredibly interesting that this is the approach we're taking, that perhaps Team RWBY being here and the morals and the ideas they left behind is that the tree is, not that it's no longer needed, but the ideals of the Ever After are changed. That how these people will change and grow and the lessons they'll learn can be carried on as they are without being remade for a new purpose. And the direction can change in their life. And I just think that's a really interesting perspective to take. The narration cheekily says that more than a somewhat big impression was left on the Ever After, and Somewhat's journey was complete, and after being complete, all they desired was a rest. But life is seldom as straightforward as that, and we see Somewhat travelling into the purple land, the evil land, the corrupted land of the Jabberwocky. And a portal opens, and we don't get to see who it was, but it's very interesting to note that this isn't just any portal, it is the portal. It is the golden-rimmed, mirror-shaped portal that both led them here, led Team RWBY here, and as far as we know, can only be created by something like the relics. It's a very specific portal. It's not just a random portal. It is a portal we recognize, and a way of traveling we recognize. Specifically from the relic of creation, we would assume. And it's here. This is not the portal of the door. This is not someone falling out of the sky. It's specifically that blue glow, that gold-rimmed portal. And the narration says that's when they saw someone who they were somewhat not prepared to see. And that is when we hear one set of footsteps. We hear step, 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 step. And someone looks up and says, haha, you're back. Okay, so questions upon questions upon questions here. Being that this being is somewhat, it would only have memories. You would think they would only have memories of what they have actually seen. So you're back should mean one of Team RWBY, probably RWBY, right? So has RWBY come through to gather them for a purpose, to perhaps come and fight, or has gone back to the Ever After? But also we've seen from the other creatures here that there's a bit of a memory that sticks around. Even Somewhat demonstrated this in the final episode, that they sort of knew Team RWBY, even though they didn't, that thing. So is this someone they inherently know who is back? Is it Oz? Has Oz returned and you're back because Somewhat, like most of the creatures here, knows the story of Lewis and recognizes them as Lewis? I mean, that's maybe a stretch, but then it being RWBY is a stretch. Why would anyone come back here? Now, they did say, the tree did say, the smith did say, that they're welcome back anytime. Anyone is welcome here. But why did this portal open and why here? Not only that, but it's very interesting. If this portal opened here, why did it open in this land? Why did it open in the purple, quote-unquote, evil lands, the corrupted lands? Which, again, like everything in the Ever After, has its place. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but do we imply something by the portal opening here? It's not Neo, because Neo is waiting to be reborn and wouldn't travel via portal, but someone else might. Did Salem appear? Because Salem has the staff, last we know. So if anyone can get here, it's Salem. But if Salem's here, did Salem come back? That doesn't make any sense, unless... I mean, I don't know. Like, who knows? Like, there's nothing that makes sense here. The only way to open a portal that we know of is with the staff. And the only person who has the staff is Salem. Although we don't know how long time has been, because in the Ever After time is very vastly different. So maybe this person returning is after they've won. So has Team RWBY already won, reclaimed the staff, and travelled here with it? And maybe what we're seeing is after the end of all events, and they are just visiting an old friend and telling them it's over and we won. Who knows? This is incredibly confusing. It, in fact, makes no sense. It doesn't even somewhat make sense. But it's incredibly intriguing, because it has to be a relic. That's the relic blue, that's the relic gold, that's what we've seen before. And it's someone somewhat has seen before or knows of, which could be a historical figure. Again, like an Oz, or if for some reason, I don't know, Alex didn't die in Salem, or that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense at all. So we presume it's Team RWBY, but the only way Team RWBY could travel here would be if they got the relic back, so it's after the war. So yeah, the biggest conclusion I can make is perhaps that this is post-war, and RWBY has reclaimed the Staff of Creation and is gone back to visit somewhat after the end of the story, at the end of things, to just see things, and like somewhat, all they wanted was a rest now that they're done. Now that RWBY has completed her quest, completed the quest, and there's one less thing wrong on Remnant, that they come back to visit their friend and also want a rest. But again, it just raises too many questions. What do we say about this? And I don't have any answers for you. That's one of those things we can't know, I suppose. But it's incredibly intriguing. But all I can ask is, tell me what you thought. Tell me what you think. Because I don't know what to think at this point. So, we'll have to leave it there on speculation. Until next time, my name is Rigger. Hope you have a wonderful day. And I hope I did alright.